That's it. Hello, I am Kirsty Dingwall, Project Manager from Headland Archaeology. You're going to get actually 2 sites in 10 minutes instead of 1, so this is going to be a challenge. These are both sites that were almost entirely excavated in the sort of late 2000s, but both sites had little areas that for either construction reasons or access constraints we couldn't excavate at the time. But they happened to be revisited in 2021, and we were kind of able to complete some of the information about the sites that were started the best part of sort of 15 years ago. I should note that Kim Gaunt was the individual that led the excavation on both of these sites, but she's very inconsiderately on her honeymoon in India. I'm not cross at all, so this is all her work that I'm presenting today. So the first site that I'm going to look at is on the corner of Candlemaker Road, the Grass Market and the Cowgate, just at the bottom of Candlemaker Road at the hill. We did excavations of part of the site. Is that the red button? That's the red button. So the roundabout at Candlemaker Road is kind of here, and we excavated this part of the site in 2010. That found evidence of quite unusual or unexpectedly early activity from the 11th and 12th century, and at a time when this would all have been, relatively speaking, quite rural, and at the confluence of 2 major cattle droving routes into the town, and also there were some late medieval or post-medieval structures as well. And so there was a question of how much of this ran into what would have been the frontage onto what is now Candlemaker Road. So this bit here, for construction reasons, it wasn't required to be excavated, so it was evaluated, but nothing else was ever done. So last year, the Grass Market Community Project, this had always been left as a kind of, slightly built up, but pretty much left as an open area, but they were wanting to build a new kind of pavilion building there. As I said, we've done evaluation in 2008-ish, I think, and had found evidence of 19th century tenement basements, but hadn't gone down into them, so there was this question of whether any of that 11th, 12th century stuff survived coming forward onto the frontage, and also the later medieval kind of structures. So we had a sort of watching brief / targeted excavation on this area in front. Whoops. Now these are not nice archaeology pictures to look at, I'm really sorry. What we found was 2 cellars, really exciting. One of them at the front was just filled with this rubble kind of material, and the one that we got at the back, the kind of interesting bits we got was some stone slabbing at the base of them. They're both 19th century, probably dating to around 1800. There's nothing particularly interesting about those cellars themselves, but there's kind of 2 interesting points about it. So the first of which, the depth of these cellars means that they would have cut through, if there was any of that earlier archaeology there, they would have cut through it and removed it. So we knew for a fact, right, in that frontage area, you're not going to be getting any of these medieval deposits, or the more interesting kind of stuff. The other thing that was quite useful was that just to the sort of south of where these cellars are, so basically just outside the picture here, which is where the ramp into the Grass Market community building is, just below the surface, so like maybe about 30 centimetres below the surface, we did get natural subsoil, undisturbed natural subsoil. So it looks like that route, that sort of route through to the back of the burgage plot was never developed, and that was always a penned. So through finding not the most interesting archaeology, but we've been able to map a bit better about what was going on at that frontage bit of the site. The other aspect of the work, which was also quite interesting, was we were able to do a standing building survey on the wall at the north of the site. So this is that wall there, basically, that hadn't previously been recorded. There's some interesting detail there about repairs and blocked up fireplaces and that kind of thing. But it also showed that the original access into the cellars was through that north wall. So there was blocked up access in the north wall into the building that is now on the north side. I think it's a hat shop, into the cellars on that side at some stage potentially around about 1900, that was blocked up, and it looks like new access was put in from the penned side into those cellars. So again, it's just sort of adding a bit to our understanding of how that Edinburgh in Town worked. So the other site is on Jeffrey Street, within one of the plots that runs down from the High Street to the north, so running down to what would have been the end of the Norloch. And here we did fairly substantial excavations in 2008, so sort of two big areas behind what is the Jury's Inn Hotel, and that produced evidence for the infilling of medieval burgage plots from the sort of 16th century onwards. The excavations at that point in 2008, so they produced evidence down the western side of the site of terracing. So because the ground is so steep, there was a lot of terraces, and some of those terraces may have dated to between the sort of 13th to 16th century, so really quite early evidence of management of that land. Also one of the lower terraces down towards the Jeffrey Street end of things, so this is one of the lower terraces here. Also included this because there's a photo of John Lawson from 15 years ago. Yeah, one of the lower terraces had this very large pit which had contained two Majolca tiles from Antwerp from probably around about 1530, and all of that pointed to the presence of a really high status building somewhere in the vicinity in the 16th century, and that all sort of maps in with the documentary evidence from that period. But what we were doing in 2021 was excavating this little strip down the side here. So it's, you know, a couple of metres wide, but we couldn't get access to it before because there was quite a lot of standing walls, and then the North Grays Close, which just runs in between this plot and Old St Paul's Church. It was still accessible and publicly using it. We wouldn't have been able to do it at the time. But because of the works that they're now doing, that had been closed off and the walls had been taken down so that we'd be able to get in next to them. We were able to cut back at the edge of sight. So the kind of thing we were seeing, really small excavation area and all having to be done in bits and quite logistically challenging. But we got a wall fronting onto North Grays Close here, which looks like it is the front wall of a building. And actually that's the edge of our original excavation, just there. So this is where we had been excavating previously. And we had a building here, which was known as Building 2 from Edgar's map of Edinburgh from 1742. So what we've got is the wall coming back round and tying into the frontage there, which was quite nice. We also got the other half of the big pit, which had those Majolca tiles in it. Unfortunately, we didn't really get anything else more exciting from that pit. And then at the north end of site, so the sort of lower down end of site, we got more evidence of, there was a 19th century tannery on the site. We removed the remains of that and were able to take the limit of excavation back towards North Grays Close and got sequence of walls, with various rebuilding and you've got brick sections up there, all of which helps us tie in that edge, because what we were never getting was the frontage of all the buildings that we were getting, and the frontage is often one of the more interesting aspects. We also, after we recorded all the sort of wall frontage and things, we were also able to take the walls off, so we were getting a sequence through the deposits within North Grays Close. Now, we couldn't go down too far, but it does look, this material is all probably relatively recent, last couple of 100 years, so we were getting down to a surface that might have been something to do with the, at the time that the tannery was in use, kind of thing. So that's a very quick overview. I think what I would kind of point out is, none of these bits of archaeology that we're getting are necessarily groundbreaking in their own right. It's all building on stuff that we already knew, but it's that idea of actually working out where perhaps things have either been truncated and you're not going to get survival of medieval deposits in the centre of Edinburgh, and you can know that and then project it more accurately. and all of that helps us map better where things are going to survive in the centre of the old town. And hopefully that all highlights the value of even, just a metre wide trench or a 2 metre wide trench. Thank you very much.